Well, welcome back. And as you're recording this, I'm looking out the window and there's snow falling and snow blowing, and it's a cold, blustery day. I'm happy to be inside. I'm happy to be in God's Word, and I hope you are too. In the middle of the week, so we linger toward the end of Romans chapter 1, and Paul is uh, painting for us a very stark picture of the fallenness of men in the world that we live in. So let's take a look at verse 30 is where we'll be at today. Let me switch my screen over. So Paul goes on. He started out in verse 29 talking about the results of sin, the results of people whose mind has been depraved and do things that are not proper. What are those things? Paul's answering that question right here in verses 29, 30, and 31. What are those things that they do? We talked about verse 29 last time. Today he continues with this sin list. And, again, if we're not, don't have our attention at this point to see the results that grow out of depraved mind, Paul just keeps hammering the point home. Slander, if we just walk through the list here, and reflect on it for a moment. Slander is words that damage someone else's reputation in a depraved mind and unredeemed by God, turned over to its own self. Slander just grows. They become haters of God. Haters, of course, intense, passionate dislike. He says that there's insolence, kind of rude, lack of respect. And don't we see that all around us today? It's sometimes I cringe at how disrespectful, how base so much of the conversation is, from every place, from the White House to entertainment. Just so insolent words, arrogance, displaying an exaggerated sense of your own importance, being puffed up. Paul calls the Corinthians, seems to be a common malady among us to be puffed up. Inventors of evil. Goodness, what a condemnation that is. It's as if the evil that's at hand is not enough, but they take their fallen, wicked, depraved mind and turn it toward inventing new kinds of evil, new kinds of uh, sickness to pursue, new ways to try to make yourself feel important or superior, new ways to try to use other people to make you feel that way. Surprisingly, we come to the end here. I skipped boastful, excessive pride in your achievements or possessions or abilities. It's one thing when somebody is boastful over things that they've actually accomplished. Quite another when they just make things up and they take very little achievement and blow it out of all proportion. How much more sinful that is. And this is what we see in the world around us. When we come to the end here, disobedient to parents, this is maybe a surprise to find this in a list like this. But really, when we think about it, maybe not so surprising after all. Perhaps this is the due penalty that he talked about in verse 27, reaping the due penalty for their sin, or the things not proper. To hate your parents, to be disobedient to your parents is not proper. Not surprising that even parents become not somebody to be respected and venerated, even, but people who are to be manipulated and used to try to make yourself feel good about yourself. Not surprising, perhaps, that even the most basic relationships in a family and in a culture become perverted and distorted and depraved in light of sin. So that's what we see here. I think for those of us who are believers, as we look at this, sobering words, right? As I mentioned before, it's kind of Paul, I think, is explaining the world around the Romans and the world in the Romans. And I think we ourselves also are looking at this and being taught the nature of the world around us. It's a cruel, evil place. It's a place where people are doing everything they can to puff themselves up, everything that they can to manipulate the world around them in order to satisfy their own depraved lusts. That's the kind of world we live in. And also, brothers and sisters, the world we're called to be salt and light in. The world we're called to be different in. That we are to be displaying, we can call this an alternative lifestyle, right? The ultimate alternative lifestyle. We are salt and light in the midst of darkness and depravity. Here in the middle of the week, perhaps the week has beaten you down a little bit. Perhaps the week has discouraged you. I pray not. But if it has, let's renew our resolve today and remind ourselves of how much honor and thanks that we owe God for not only saving us out of a world like this, but getting this world out of us. Not only have we been taken out of the world, but the world is being slowly, methodically taken away from us, cleansed from our soul. Let's thank Him and yield ourselves to Him and trust Him to do what's right and do what's best in order to make us more and more like the image of Christ. God bless you. Enjoy your day. I know I'm enjoying being in the house, quiet, warm, and enjoying the companionship and fellowship of my wife. So I pray that you are enjoying your day as well.